Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP. Welcome back to another episode of my Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2021 playthrough, playing as the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. This is going to be my fifth season with this team, but second season in this new version of the game. And I thought today I would do something a little bit different with the new version just released. I know that usually gets some new interest and may have some new players watching the series here. And one of the things I haven't covered in a long time in these playthroughs, and it's something that's really key, is the off season. This is a kind of game where, if you really want to be successful, you have to put a lot of effort into the off season. And I don't know, I guess if you're just seeing the games that I'm playing out, if you're just seeing me playing out the schedule, you may not get a really good idea of what goes into the game. So I thought that might be a good idea to show some of that. I don't want to get too in depth with it, but I just want to cover some of the key concepts and go through a few things, mainly with recruiting and a few other things, depth chart, that you have to really take care of in the off season. And there are some tips and tricks videos I think out there, some tutorial type videos that I'd also recommend. I think one of my viewers even mentioned one that I've seen before from GM Games channel on YouTube. Some good stuff that helped me out a lot when it came time to fiddle with my depth charts and get those kind of things set up. But I wanted to look at a few things from this team from last year. Number one, just to recap, fourth season with the team, we had a decent season, but we went into the Conference USA tournament and won it. Beat really the best team in the conference by far, Texas San Antonio. Went to the NCAA tournament, were one and done, which we were competitive maybe a little bit in that first half, but it was, that was in the last episode. It was not a great matchup for us, and we left, lost out pretty quick. But what happened is it may have improved the prestige a little bit. It allowed us to petition the board and ask for more budget, which was cool. And it helped with recruiting, I think, throughout last season. And look at this, our recruit class rankings, 36th in the country. That's really good for a program like this. That's probably, I'll be willing to bet that's the best in our conference by far. I'm not seeing any other teams from Conference USA just at a quick glance. But we're beating teams like Temple, Syracuse, Wisconsin, Iowa. So that was a really good positive result from the last two seasons, I think. And we don't have any players transferring out, which was good because I knew we had a few guys who weren't happy with the playtime. That turned out not to be a big issue. So we're coming back with everybody from last season. I think we're still a young team. We've only got one scholarship to offer this season, which is good. And I'm going to cover, my thoughts on what to do about that. I think it was one of the reasons I wanted to show a little bit in recruiting this episode, because I think with just one recruit, it might give me a better chance to show you what goes into it without getting too in the weeds. I'm hoping that it'll be good to just easier to target just one position player. But I think we're in a good spot. I'm hoping so anyway. But a few things I wanted to cover as we go into the next season. So this is Sunday, June 26th. That's June 26th is the start of recruiting a game. One of the first things that I do, and I've already done it, but I'll do it again here because I think it's easy to do. I didn't mention the purchase your scouting report too. And for now, I'm still staying with this region, trying to build out that pipeline, which is new in 2021. I'll take a look at that here in a second. But one of the first things I do is with the scheduling. As soon as I can, you'll get this email notice from your athletic director talking about the schedule. and you get a chance to call him up and pitch or suggest the kind of schedule you want to go with. So for the previous, 4 seasons, I've just been trying to build up a prestige and win totals, and you can see what it's turned out, how it's turned out. I mean, first 2 years we struggled. We were losing records both years. I thought it was good to build the team's confidence, get them close to or used to winning going into the conference schedule. So I was giving them really easy schedules. This season, I've been taking a look at the depth, and we'll look at it just from the roster to give you an idea. We have more depth, I think, on this team than we've ever had. And we've got some decent upperclassmen, guys who've been starters for multiple seasons, especially junior point guard Steven Johnson, 4 stars. We've got Hanson, a junior who was a transfer in from Arkansas. This is going to be his second year starting with us, but he's third year starting overall. Baxter, this is going to be his second year starting with us. He's a junior this year, 4-star player. Wilcox probably going to take over I know he's going to take over for now at small 4 or power 4, but look at this. 3.5 with 4 potential after his freshman year where I gave him quite a few minutes. He's got some really positive things here going on, inside shooting and rebounding. And then finally, Brown, who's been off the bench for the last 2 seasons, a transfer in from Texas El Paso, I believe. 3-star, 3.5-star player. Green in a lot of categories. So I think it's time with this kind of depth. And then you can even see, we've got some good young players out of last year's recruiting class, finding a good-looking shooting guard transfer with 4 potential. Several guys here with 4 potential. Muhammad, a freshman recruit. I think it's time that we upped our game on the schedule. And so what I did this year is I petitioned the athletic director to give us a balanced schedule. Now, how you do that is you hit the phone, you select the athletic director group, you select the AD, and then you hit dial. And he's going to basically, this is the options you have. It's all around the schedule. So in the last 3 seasons that I've been running this team, I've asked for the cupcakes at home and easy schedule. This year, I'm going to go for a balanced schedule, And what I've noticed in the past, and that's all you have to do, and then he'll work on that schedule, and then I think it's sometime in September or October when the schedule's released, you'll see a balanced schedule usually gives you a few opponents that are going to be from more prestigious college conferences. Sometimes you'll get ranked opponents from there. And what I'm hoping to do, obviously I'm hoping to get some wins from that kind of competition, but I'm looking to improve our prestige a little bit, improve our net ranking so that if we get a few of those wins and we handle the conference schedule well, we might have a shot at the NCAA tournament, whether we win our conference tournament or not. And I think that's my goal anyway. But, I just think it's time. That's been my goal all along, is that we'll get to a point where we're playing really quality competition in non-conference. I knew it was going to take a few years, but I think now's the time with the kind of depth that we have. So that was the first thing I wanted to address. And then the second thing I wanted to look at is the depth charts. I think that is a really big thing. I've spent a lot of time on it, and I never really show me going through the depth charts because it takes time. But I wanted to at least mention my thought processes on this and give you a little bit of how I go about doing it. So the first thing to consider is, and I'll just click on one to open it up, I like subbing my guys out at 75, at or below 75. I've found that gives them close to the minutes that I'm putting in there for them, barring injury or foul trouble. So I've got, 28 minutes for my two best players here in Baxter and Johnson. I know some guys might want to go 30 and above. As long as I've got a pretty comfortable bench, I'm okay with these guys getting, in the high 20s. Johnson, for instance, 2 years in a row now, he's getting close to 30. He was at 29 last year. I think he'll back off a little bit this year because another factor I want to mention, and I'll go over that here in a minute too, but I try to get my starters anywhere from 24 to 28, sometimes 30 minutes if I don't have the depth. But it's basically looking at the best overall players. We're lucky with this team this year. Nobody's going to have to play out of position. It's a true small forward playing small forward, a true power forward playing power forward. But the two keys I give it on the depth chart, even with the best, is I try to give them no more than 6 minutes at a time and no more than, I'll stretch that to 8, but no more than 30 minutes total played. Sometimes you'll get a guy like Johnson, again, might be a good one. He's very durable, so he could probably go 30 plus. But I just, I'd rather have him rested, and that's why I go with that. The other thing, and I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit different here because I also want to make sure I get my recruits who have the best potential. I want to give them good quality playing time. I think one of my viewers mentioned this ratio, and it's probably true. I've seen it when I've had some success with developing recruits in the past. 24-16, if you've got a decent starter or a good starter even, and you've got a really good promising recruit or somebody you really want to give some time to develop, 24-16 seems to be a good target on minutes. But one thing to consider there is, again, you don't want to give them 8 minutes at a time. Try to refrain from that. At least that's been my experience. So I'm doing something a little bit different with the center. We may have to look and see how it goes as the season progresses. I may have to back off this, but I'm giving them 4 minutes at a time. Doing that a little bit here with Wilcox at power forward. I've never done that before, but I'm interested to see how it works because I know I want to give Dunkley, who's come off his potential a little bit, but I think he'll get back up there. He's a good player. He was a good recruit. And I'm hoping that'll be a good ratio for him and give him the minutes he needs to develop. I'm doing that with Walker, who was, again, his potential doesn't look like it's there, but I think give him play time and it will be. This guy was a good recruit, 4-star recruit. He was either MVP or top 5 at one of the summer camps. So I think that's going to be a good thing. And then I'm also trying to get Vining some time. I think that's key too, to get some of these guys more play time so they develop. Muhammad is going to be, with a 4-star potential, he's really going to be the only backup at point guard. Now, once you've got this set up, a lot of times the guys down here are just walk-ons. They don't have much of a future. Rose, the senior walk-on. I usually put them in the extras category, although I'm putting Dunkley as the extra center just in case, we run out of and I think that really only comes into play when you got guys who run out of stamina or, you run out of position players. So, that's going to be a consideration there. And I'm going to have to change this again. Sometimes it bounces back and forth, and I have to change it and resave the game. I advise you, too, when you get your depth chart set up, go through there and change it, save it, so that it's so you can guarantee it being there. I've lost the depth charts a few times not saving it. But that's kind of a look at how I manage it. You can fiddle around with it, come up with your own system, but it's key to give everybody good balance, making sure that the good players get most of the minutes, but also getting your recruits and your underclassmen, making sure they get good minutes too. So we've got some good, upside. I think the key is Johnson, Hanson, Baxter, Wilcox. These are all juniors or below. He's a sophomore, so we got 2 seasons with these guys hopefully, and it's going to be key to make sure these guys don't suffer on the bench. A lot of them. So that was the other thing I was going to mention, and next thing is going to be the strategies. I talk about this a little bit throughout the season, but I don't go too in depth with it and how I set it up. One of the great things about the 2021 version is you've got this chart over here that you can tell at a glance. Really, it's color coded: dark green best, all the way down to bright red, and then gray when they have no proficiencies at it. But you want to make sure that your offensive sets match up with the abilities that you're giving these guys. I'm going with only 3 offenses. I'm doing something a little different this year. Even though we've got guys who are good, have some knowledge with the flex offense. I've been running that a little bit in the last couple seasons. I want to back off from it, give them just 3, because I think it's going to be good for the younger players that they don't have as much to focus on. And mostly these are going to be picked up in practice. So you're not going to pick up a whole lot of their knowledge and proficiency in game the way I understand it. They will over the course of a season. I guess they'll pick it up if they're playing and starting. But you want to make sure this is set early in the off season and match it up to your practice time, which I'll show in a minute. But it's going to be balanced between motion, Princeton, and triangle. Princeton is still probably the primary offense we have, but here's the thing, and you want to use this offensive set description here. This will be a good guide. One of the things that got me away from flex is you have to have good ball handlers from power forward centers. Your big men have to be good ball handlers. For the most part, they're decent average passers, but a lot of them right now, these centers that I've got on the team for sure, and even some of the power forwards, their ball handling is not as great as it should be. So I think you can get away with that on the Princeton, which you just want to have some guys making good passes once these guys cut to the basket. But I think the flex was a little bit more dangerous to play if you don't have really good ball handlers all up and down the line. Motion is a basic offense. I think it's good to have motion probably in any offense you run for the most part. We've got some proficiencies in motion now that are pretty high. And then I'm moving over to triangle because I have been playing it a little bit too, incorporating it into our practices and playing the last couple seasons. So now we got some guys here, especially Brown, they're high up in proficiency for it. All of our starters are in at least the light green for that. Except for Wilcox, who, he's going to have to develop because he's the youngest and the only guy on the team is not really either a returning starter or like Brown getting a lot of minutes. So I think of the two, flex or triangle, I thought triangle was a safer bet because I think it's a little bit safer of an offense to run. I'm going to stick with balanced focus, using the sets about 2/3 of the time. And so now that I've got these sets going, I want to go to the practice, which starts usually around the time recruiting starts. And it's going to tell you what you're set to use with your sets. So you just want to balance it. You want to balance it between defensive and offensive. Should come out to 100. So this number, like if you change this to 5, for instance, you'll have 5 to play with up there. But I'm just kind of putting the percentages of practice time where they match up with usage. I'm putting a lot of effort into man-to-man for the most part because, I think maybe you need it. It should be a basic defensive set, but I like putting a lot of time into the defense. I like balancing up basically 50-50. And that's kind of the way it's going to go. Like this little note here says, you want to make sure you're putting training time into these zone offenses because odds are they'll have to run it from time to time. if they're facing a zone defense. But that's how I like to set up my depth training and strategies. And the good thing, like I say, it's all kind of matched up here. It's really easy to figure out what you need to go with and how well your team's going to be good at it. And it's one of the things I got into a little discussion in previous episodes about is the great thing about this game. When you're starting out with a smaller program, which is, to me, is where the challenge really lies with this team, I think you have to pay a lot of attention to this kind of stuff, at least for your first few seasons, because you're not going to get the recruits. You're not going to get the talent unless you're just lucky or unless you just put all your money first couple seasons into the best assistant, best recruiter you can find, and hope that maybe in season 3 he bails you out and gets some good recruits. But for me, I really put as much energy as I can on this stuff, and that way, I've seen poor recruits develop into good players, and I think that's a good sign that maybe the system works for me. And another thing is you want to make sure you want to keep the strategies, your offensive sets. I don't want to say simple, but like you can go with a more complex offense if your team is able to run it or if they have the talent level for it. But you don't want to put like 10% here and 10% in all these and then expect your team to run 6 different offenses at any given time. Picking 3, sometimes even 2, is usually all you have to do. I've seen teams where they'll put just 50% in Princeton, 30% in motion, and then the rest in the zones, and that's how it's set up, and you can probably be successful with that. But I'll say the changes. I didn't make any, I don't think, but hopefully that gives you some pointers there. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is recruiting, and I probably won't get to go too far into recruiting like I'd like to, but I will give you the overall concepts around recruiting. So when you hit the recruiting tab up here, it'll tell you the budget you have, and we're stretched a little thin right now. We actually hired a little bit. Another thing I did with that money is I hired a better assistant to help with, I think it was recruiting. I think he was a better recruiter, but it tells you the scholarships you have. It tells you how many you can put on your call list, and as you fill this up, this will change. But one of the things that's really cool, 2 things really to look at. This right here tells you the period you're in. If you hit dates, it'll give you like the schedule out of what each of these periods mean and when you're going to hit them. There is one key period here that you're shooting for, and that's this contact period. This is where, it happened last season, it happened previous season, I'm sure. You're going to get those best recruits by this early. You want to get them really by the early letters of intent period. If you don't lock them up early, and if you don't have, say you got 4 scholarships out there and you have 1 letter of intent, you got 3 guys that, 3 scholarships open, and you don't really have anybody who is showing up, you're not showing up as their top school. They're not, they're not leaning towards signing with you. It's going to be a really big scramble to make it to this next contact period. Now, the contact period is when the head coach, me in this game, is going to visit the recruit at home and make your pitches. That's where, it really impresses them, impresses their families. That's where you get the signings. For the most part, a lot of what you're doing with recruiting it's going to be your assistant coach who handles recruiting who does that. But I'll show you the concept here in a minute. But what you're basically doing, you're using that assistant coach to call them up, get what's important to them, and then you're also, visiting them, scouting them live to get information on how they play, what their capabilities are, what offensives they're familiar with and good at. And then you're using the campus visits to hopefully get them interested in your school. And that's usually the first sign that you're going to have a good chance at landing a recruit is when you have them visit and they come away, I was really impressed, or I like what I saw. That's usually the first sign that you're on the right track with a recruit. You watch game film is another big thing, because again, that helps, knowing how they play, what they're good at. So you're going to do all these things so that when you get to this contact period, which is first one's about 4 weeks, you go there and make your hard pitches. That's where you get them to commit. So that's what I'll start here in this one and show you how it goes along. Another thing that's, I think, new with 2021, and I think is really cool, I showed it before, but if you hit that help button, what it actually does is it gives you your team needs and info. It tells you what your minimum SAT score is, which is important. If you've got a high, like 1050 or so is your minimum, you might want to stay away from those guys with low 2 GPAs, but that's key. And then this is color-coded, telling you who you're missing, who's going to be leaving the team next year, who's going to be back. And it's color-coded by position. Gray is going to be leaving. So for me, I got a freshman center. My senior center is leaving, and I've got one scholarship available. I'm going centers all the way. I've got two, I think, really good power forwards. I'm stacked at small forward. Shooting guard looks good. So I'm really comfortable just targeting center. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how you do that. Another thing I wanted to mention on this version, it's new and it's really cool. And as you play season after season, you'll see it getting better and better, I hope. Now, what I don't know is what kind of influence it's going to have on the day-to-day recruiting, but eventually I think the gist is that it's going to help, and that's this idea of a pipeline. As you recruit and sign into these different states, if you get 10 or more recruits from the same state, then you have developed a pipeline into that state. And where you find that out is you go to your office. I think you can see it here. Actually, well, I know I can see it here. You click on your name, and it's right here, the last one, pipeline progression. Now, we're working on pipelines outside of the state of Tennessee, but we're close in Tennessee to developing a recruiting pipeline in the state, which, at this point, that should be almost a given. But I think what that's going to mean for us in Tennessee, it's really going to be easier to get in-state recruits interested right off the bat. I'm hoping that's the case. But I think it's cool, as we stretch into these other states, it's, hopefully we'll build multi-state pipelines so that that's not an impediment, because most, 80%, if not more or a little less, but most of these recruits, their most important thing is playing close to home. Whether that's true in real life, I don't know, but that's the way it is in this game. And it stands to reason, you want your friends and family to be able to see you and watch your progression. So that's pretty much the first thing you want to pitch to these guys. So thought I would show that. We're not going to hit a pipeline this year because we've only got the one scholarship, but we're getting close to Tennessee. So what you do when you get to recruiting, you go up here to the Recruit Players tab. I've got 50 available for the call list. So first thing I'm going to look at, who's interested. The ones in blue, they're cool, and I think you're going to have a chance, at least I would hope so, turning these guys into full-on recruits, especially the ones maybe like, the ones in Tennessee, maybe the ones in Alabama. But you notice 3 stars is the top. But at least we're getting that, because before, and I've noticed in a test run that I'm doing with a smaller school, you're not going to get that kind of interest as soon as recruiting starts. You have to work for it. First thing I do, I go over here to the position, though, that I'm wanting to recruit. We're going to keep it simple. This season, all we need is a center. And then I'm going to make sure that these are rated by stars. And right away, I'm gonna try to contact these guys. I'm gonna try to get them interested, whether they will be or not. Different story. But I always put the 4 and really 3 and above recruits on my call list. So how you do that? You highlight them, and you want to put them on the call and watch list. Honestly, because you want to do more than just call the guys. So highlight it, hit B, and I'm just going to go down this list and until everybody is chosen, and I'm going to stop at the 2 stars. Now, hopefully the goal is I'm going to get 3-star above is still what I'm going for. Ideally, yeah, I want the 4 and 5 stars, but this is what I'm looking for right now. Now, that puts me at 21, and it's a unique situation this year because, again, being that we've only got the one position, one scholarship available, I might even look at. So right now, I'm only looking at the Southeast region. That's where we buy our scouting reports. That's the region we're in. We're still, we're not a national program. We're not going to have that kind of prominence. But I'm going to start looking and see if I go all regions, if we've got any interest from anybody outside our region. I don't see it right now. So I really don't. And it might just be because I didn't have the... I didn't have the scouting report. I didn't buy the scouting report. So that's fine. But I tell you, for this, I'm going to see if I can get some of these guys here. I'm just going to, so I've already got him on there. I'm going to look at some of these guys who are close to our region, and I'm going to put them on there. Not going to mess around with too many. Because, like he's on there. I don't want to get too unrealistic with it because, I'm going to have to target these guys pretty quick. So what that does now gives us 24 to work with. I think that's pretty good. So then what I do now is I go to for this first session here, I'm going to go with the call and watch list. And that's going to show me everybody that I'm targeting. And then you just take the first one, dial them up, and see if you can get them to listen to you. Now, this one, saying right away he's not interested, but you want to always try. Say, give me 5 minutes, and he's not interested. So I'm going to just remove him from the list. I don't want to waste too much time on him. So hit R when he's highlighted and he's gone. Nick Brennan out of Florida. Give him a try. More than likely, he's not going to be interested. No. That's what I'm talking about. So now I've got pitch areas to go with. The first thing I always do on this list is go with school location. Especially with these out-of-state guys, you know right away what you're up against. The next thing I go with is program facilities, because I've boosted our program facilities on this team to B. So it is one of the better things that we have to offer. So, he's got a little interest. Then I go conference prestige because, hey, we're still in a mid-major, we're still in kind of an average conference. That's his number one priority. So I'm going to stop right there on him. I just go back, make sure I end the call properly with him. I don't know if that plays into it or not. But so now I've got some, some information on this guy. So conference prestige is what he's into. But he does have, he's got enough on facilities, and he's not all the way in location. So he might be open to giving us a look. So I'm going to watch film, and I'm going to see if he'll come visit the school, and he does. So you get 3 of these host recruits a week. I'm going to go with the Georgia guy next. same way. At least I'm getting them to listen. I think that's what's coming with all of that prestige we built up with the last few years. So school location first. Sometimes you'll get this lost connection. You got to keep trying. So it's very important to him. Not the most important thing. Program facilities is very important to him. Conference prestige. And I'm going to go, and playing time is very important. I'm going to stop right there because I want to call one more guy this week. So I'm going to see if he will also visit the campus. And he will. And I'm going to watch film on him. So I'm going to try this Dearborn. I don't know that I have a whole lot of faith that this guy, John Evans, is going to be interested. So I'm going to try one of these guys down here. Dearborn, third regional, third ranked regionally, nationally top 10. So I'm going to try to call him and get a couple things out of him. And yeah, he's not even gonna pick up the phone. So maybe I will try Evans out of Texas, or I've already tried him. No, I'm out of call time. So I'll at least watch film on him. Now, what I want to do with the available time, I don't have call time, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at some of these guys who are interested and see if I can get them to come to campus. I'll watch some film from, some of the guys who are close. I'll give it a chance there. Tennessee, all the way down here, junior college transfer, which I've mentioned before, I don't really like doing. But I try to use it all up, at least early in there, because I want to make sure I'm getting my money's worth. Now, these are 2-star guys, but you know what? Like this guy here, he's 69th by position, 11th regionally. He might move up. I like his rebound and point numbers. I'm going to make sure that at least I'm giving him some notice. So that's going to be pretty much all I can do that first week. I think you can text some of these guys, but I don't like texting them until it's later in the season. I've tried that with the test run I'm doing, and a lot of times they just start tuning you out, and I don't think you get the value until you're actually trying to make a hard pitch. So here we go. We'll advance, and first thing we're going to look at is how the visits went. With these top recruits, I don't expect the visits to go all that great, but it does look like we got one guy already moving into the warm spot. So let's take a look at the so Holloway enjoyed his visit. Givens didn't think it was worthwhile. Probably not going to get this guy to come. Same with Benham. Camps are going to be starting. That's going to be a key thing to look at too with recruiting. So we're going to go back and see what we got. So we got Benham. He's not really interested. I'm just going to remove him for now. And same with, I think Givens came as well. Man, I'd still like to keep this guy on the radar, though. And I probably will. But we're going to move down the list. So we got McDaniel here out of Texas. I didn't get the chance to call him. I'm going to call him and see what kind of interest he has. School location. Oh, man. I hate when they do that because you waste your call time. I'm just going to move on. Program facilities, conference prestige. All right, so I've got a pretty good look at this guy. I'm going to see if he'll come visit the school. This would be a great recruit too. So he will come. I'm not going to scout him live yet. I'll only do that if I know we're top 10. Because if he's out of state, it's going to really eat into that budget. Here's a guy I haven't been able to call. He's not interested. Or maybe I did and he was not interested. And then Robinson, another pretty high recruit. Haven't been able to call him yet, so let's try and see what he does. So school location, that's his number one priority. The guy's got so much upside that I'm gonna see if he'll visit the school, and I'm gonna watch some film on him. This guy right here, he's 7th regionally. Good inside shooter, pretty good size. I like his numbers there. He's coming out of Arkansas, so that would help in our pipeline if we were able to get him. I'm gonna watch some film on him. I'm not really ready to scout him live, but I'm out of call time. But I do have one recruit that I can host. So I'm just going to go down the line. That's a guy that hasn't visited that I might be able to get to come. He's in Kentucky. He's going to come. I'm going to watch film on him. And then I'm just going to kind of put some more film time into some of these guys. And I may also, while it's early, I'm going to scout some of these in-state because it's only $75. So not as much. So I'll go scout live, watch film, and then scout live. So we'll advance and see what kind of thing that gives us, and that'll probably be as far as I go because I didn't want this to get too in depth. But what I'll do next episode is kind of recap how this all turned out. But I'm going to advance to at least we get to the next week that gives us an update on those visits. Now, the superstar camps that we're going to are Georgia and Memphis. This is going to tell you who's going to be there. And you want to look for, once they've gone to these camps, when you go in here to their box of information, it'll tell you how they did in the camp. So this guy didn't look too good. Fred Thornton didn't stand out. Heath Marcy, he had a decent showing. So he's probably a good guy to look at. He's a 3-star recruit. Eli didn't stand out, and Holloway didn't stand out. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but what you really want to look for is like the 2- and 3-star recruits who it says they had really good camps. A lot of times you'll get some sleepers if you recruit for those guys. So one more advancement to see if any of these guys enjoyed their visit. So Jimmy Polite didn't think it was worthwhile. Did think it was worthwhile. But Daniel thought it was cool. So that's good. So let me see if that McDaniel, where's he at in there? He's the guy from Arkansas. He didn't stand out at Georgia, but he'll probably show up, I'm thinking, in Memphis. So there's a chance he might, he might have a good show in there. I don't like this. This is what you see when you start watching film on him. He doesn't look good or comfortable putting the ball on the floor, so that is a negative. If all I'm getting from my recruiter or scout, not scout, assistant who's doing recruiting, if it's all going to be negative, I'll pass on him unless it's just as a last resort. But McDaniel, he didn't like the school, but we're still cool on him. So I think he hasn't given up on us completely. So he's a guy with facilities. I'll still pitch this guy. I'll still work up and give him a visit as long as he's not showing no interest on there. But hopefully this gives you a look at least at how I start recruiting. Like I say, when we get to the next episode, I really expect this to be fleshed out. I think we'll probably have our, if not letters of intent, I think we'll have verbals, or at least we'll have the scholarships offered that we want to go with, in this case, one. But it's really key to work this, and It's gotten easier for me, I have to say. When you're a smaller program or you haven't had good prestige run, you're not going to get this much interest. It's really a hard thing you have to build over time, but it can be done. I really think it can be done. But anyway, that'll do it for this episode. As always, appreciate the support. Hope you enjoy it. And look for next episode. We'll go ahead and get this new season started and try to repeat as conference champions and maybe go a little bit further than that. So see you next time.